All right, everybody. What's going on? Man, peace and power, elevation be to all of you. This your girl Tiffany coming through live in effect. And so, as you can see, that incident that happened took place in 2001 on September 11th. So that's been 19 years ago. Okay. So today we're going to deal with that topic about the 9/11. Now, when this first happened, I was 12 years old. I was about 12. Yeah, I was 12 years old when this took place. I had no idea of what was going on. I had no clue. I remember I was in the cafeteria and I remember seeing people crying, being scared because they didn't know what the hell was going on. And they thought that it was going to come and take place where we was at. So when I first heard about this, I was like, wow. I didn't know how to give a response to it. Now, there's been so many speculation regarding to the 9/11. So many people have these weird conspiracy theories behind it. One saying that it didn't happen. Just like somebody put this comment up here, where's the planes in the building? Get the fuck out of here. That's why I had to block that individual because I don't have time for that. All right. There were missiles going into the building. Okay. Then also you got people that saying stuff like the government did it themselves, which at that time when I was studying on conspiracy theories, I thought that it was true that the government did it. I mean, well, it was sounding convincing. It was like, okay, maybe the government did plot something because it was so convincing. But then I had to snap back reality and say, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you bomb your own buildings, especially the World Trade Center, where there's a lot of trading taking place? So why would they want to do that? But anyways, let's look at the history because people don't understand that terrorism can't happen. Wars happen. People don't get it. People try to try to insinuate something that they cannot verify to be true. So let's look at the incident of what happened, how it happened, and why it happened. All right, so let's look at the story of 9/11. Take this off here real quick. Let's look at the story of 9/11. What happened on this day? Okay. So I'm going to read a little bit of information, right? And then I'm going to share some sources because that's what I like to do. So September 11 attacks, often referred to 9/11, were a series of four coordinated terrorist attacks by the Islamic terrorist group Al-Qaeda against the United States on the morning of Tuesday, September 11 of 2001. The attacks resulted in 2,977 fatalities, over 25,000 injuries, and substantial long-term health consequences, in addition to at least $10 billion in infrastructure and property damage. 9/11 is the single deadliest terrorist attack in human history and the single deadliest incident for firefighters and law enforcement officers in the history of the United States, with 343 and 72 killed respectively. Four passenger airliners, which had departed from airports in the northeast United States bound for California, were hijacked by 19 Al-Qaeda terrorists. Two of the planes, American Airlines Flight 11 and United Airlines Flight 175 crashed into the north and south towers, respectively, of the World Trade Center complex in Lower Manhattan. Within an hour and 42 minutes, both 110-story towers collapsed. Debris and the resulting fire caused a partial or complete collapse of all other buildings in the World Trade Center complex, including the 47-story 7 World Trade Center tower, as well as significant damage to 10 other large surrounding structures. A third plane, American Airlines Flight 77, was crashed into the Pentagon, the headquarters of the United States Department of Defense, in Arlington County, Virginia, which led to a partial collapse of the building's west side. The fourth plane, United Airlines Flight 93, was initially flown towards Washington, D.C., but crashed into a field, Stony Creek Township, Pennsylvania, after passenger thwarted the hijackers. Then goes on to say, suspicious quickly fell onto Al-Qaeda. The United States responded by launching the war on terror and invading Afghanistan to depose the Taliban, which had failed to comply with U.S. demands to expel Al-Qaeda from Afghanistan and extradite their leader, Osama bin Laden. Many countries strengthened their anti-terrorism legislation and expanded the power of law enforcement and intelligence agencies to prevent terrorist attacks. Although bin Laden initially denied any involvement in 2004, he claimed the responsibility for attacks. Al-Qaeda and bin Laden cited U.S. support of Israel, the presence of U.S. troops in Saudi Arabia, and sanctions against Iraq as motives. After evading capture for almost a decade, bin Laden was located in Pakistan in 2011 and killed during a U.S. military raid. Okay, so what we know from that story, right, for what happened, it started off on the airplane where there was some hijackers from Al-Qaeda or the terrorists. They came on there to terrorize the people, and somehow those planes that was supposed to be flying they were flying from the airport going out to California. And because of this incident with the hijackers or whatnot, they flown into the World Trade Center. Well, one of them flew into the World Trade Center and causing it to collapse. And then the other plane, which was the United flight, that hit the Pentagon and caused it to collapse. So it was a case of some hijackers that was supposed to be part of Al-Qaeda or some type of terrorist group that was terrorizing the people or hijacking people, and that what led to that whole incident. Now, going back to these dumb conspiracies about the United States bombed the Pentagon, no, that's not what happened. Nor did they bomb the World Trade Center. So we debunk all those myths. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to read on. And then I'm going to present some articles and some information, some online sources. Okay? So let's continue. All right. It says the destruction of the World Trade Center and nearby infrastructure seriously harmed the economy of New York City and had a significant effect on global markets. The U.S. and Canadian civilian airspaces were closed until September 13, while Wall Street was closed until September 17. Many closing, evacuation, and cancellation followed. Out of respect or fear of further attacks, cleanup of the World Trade Center site was completed in May of 2002, and the Pentagon was repaired within a year. The construction of One World Trade Center began in November 2006, and the building opened in November 2014. Numerous memorials have been constructed, including the National September 11 Memorial and Museum in New York City, the Pentagon Memorial in Arlington County, Virginia, and the Flight 93 National Memorial at the Pennsylvania crash site. So actually, this happened in 4 or 3 locations. It happened in New York, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. But New York was hit the hardest. Okay. But the Pentagon incident took place in Virginia, Arlington County, Virginia. And another attack took place within Pennsylvania. But the main one that people are really familiar about is the one in New York that took place. Okay. All right, so let's look at the timeline real quick. Let's see what we can find. Okay, so right here under September 11, well, it goes into the planning. So it says 2000 Al Qaeda summit in Malaysia, plot heads to United States and train in flying school. 2011 Romanian hijackers go to United States. Zacharias Mazul goes to United States and is arrested. Other cell members flee Germany. All right, so here's the timeline of what happened on September 11th. Okay. So all times are in local times. All right. So 7:59 a.m. American Airline Flight 11 takes off from Boston Logan International Airport bound for Los Angeles International Airport. 8:14 a.m. Flight 11 is hijacked. 8:14 a.m. United Airlines Flight 175 takes off from Boston Logan, also bound for Los Angeles. 8:20 a.m. American Airlines Flight 77 takes off from Washington Dulles International Airport, also bound for Los Angeles. All right, and 8:42 a.m. United Airlines Flight 93 takes off from Newark International Airport, bound for San Francisco International Airport. Okay, and 8:42 to 8:46 a.m. Flight 175 is hijacked. 8:46 to 8:46 a.m. 40 seconds. Flight 11 crashes into the North Tower of the World Trade Center between the 93rd and 99th floors. 8:50. Flight 77 is hijacked. 9:03 a.m. Flight 175 crashes into the South Tower of the World Trade Center between the 77th and 85th floors. Okay. At 9:28 a.m., the Flight 93 is hijacked. 9:37 a.m. Flight 77 crashes into the Pentagon. 9:59 a.m. the South Tower collapses. And 10:03 a.m. Flight 93 crashes into a field, Shanksville, Pennsylvania. And 10:28 the North Tower collapses. Okay. So that's what took place. And let's see what else can we find on here. Okay, so right here, it gives you the even more broader timeline of what all happened and how it happened. Now, nowhere would you see that says the United States government was the one that did it, okay? Nowhere will you see that. So that's that information. Okay, so let's look up what Al Qaeda is on the background. So, Al Qaeda. The origins of Al Qaeda can be traced back to 1979 when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. Osama bin Laden traveled to Afghanistan and helped to organize Arab Mujahideen to resist the Soviets. Under the guidance of Ayman al-Zawahiri, bin Laden became more radical. In 1996, bin Laden issued first fatwa, and fatwa means a non-binding legal opinion on a point of Islamic law by a qualified jurist in response to a question posed by a private individual, judge, or government. A jurist issuing fatwas is called a mufti, and the act of issuing fatwas is called iftah. All right. So yeah, bin Laden issued his first fatwa calling for American soldiers to leave Saudi Arabia. In a second fatwa in 1998, bin Laden outlined his objective to American foreign policy with respect to Israel, as well as the continued presence of American troops in Saudi Arabia after the Gulf War. Bin Laden used Islamic texts to extort Muslims to attack Americans until the stated grievance were reversed. Muslim legal scholars have throughout Islamic history on unaimlessly agreed that the jihad is an individual duty if the enemy destroys the Muslim countries, according to bin Laden. All right, so as you can see, that's a picture of Osama bin Laden. Okay. So, and it says here bin Laden orchestrated the attack and initially denied involvement, but later reclaimed his false statement. Al Jazeera broadcast a statement by bin Laden on September 16, 2001, stating that I stress that I have not carried out this act, which appears to have been carried out by individuals with their own motivation. November 2011, U.S. forces recovered a videotape from a destroyed house in Jalalabad, Afghanistan. In the video, bin Laden is seen talking to Khalid al-Habri and admits foreknowledge of the attacks. Okay, so on December 27, 2001, a second bin Laden video was released. In the video, he said, it has become clear that the West in general and America in particular have unspeakable hatred for Islam. It is the hatred of the crusaders. Terrorism against America deserved to be praised because it was response to injustice aimed at forcing America to stop its support for Israel, which kills our people. We say that the end of the United States is imminent, whether bin Laden or his followers are alive or dead, for the awakening of Muslim Ummah has occurred. But he stopped short of admitting responsibility for the attacks. And it says, shortly before the U.S. presidential election in 2004, bin Laden used a tape statement to publicly acknowledge Al-Qaeda's involvement in the attacks on the United States. He admitted his direct link to the attacks and said they were carried out because we are free and want to regain freedom for our nation. As you undermine our security, we undermine yours. Bin Laden said he had personally directed his followers to attack the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. Another video obtained by Al Jazeera in September of 2006 shows bin Laden with Razim bin al-Shabin, as well as two hijackers, Azza al-Gamadi and Wali al-Shari, as they made preparation for the attacks. The U.S. never formally indicted bin Laden for the 9/11 attacks, but he was on the FBI's most wanted list for the bombings of the U.S. embassies in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and Nairobi, Kenya. After a 10-year manhunt, U.S. President Barack Obama announced that bin Laden was killed by American Special Forces in his compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan on May 1st of 2011. Well, that's deep. So, according to Osama bin Laden, his reason for going back to the United States was because he wanted the United States to leave the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, because the fact that the United States was lending support to Israel. And as you guys know, that Israel been going back and forth with countries like where they've been going back and forth with the Palestinians, Afghanistan, etc. So there's a lot of Middle Eastern countries that don't like Israel, right? So the fact that the United States was supporting Israel at that time, Osama bin Laden wanted the United States to leave. And then also because he felt like Israel was the enemy, okay, to those that's from Pakistan and Afghanistan area, and they have the initial, their main objective is to attack those innocent people. Attack their people and take over their region, etc. So it's a war between the Middle East, and United States happen to be involved in that. And so that was the whole issue. So basically, Osama bin Laden like, look, y'all over here on the side with the Israeli people, and those Israeli people are our enemies. So now we gotta take it out on you. So that was his way of seeking vengeance. So he was seeking vengeance by sending his attackers to come over here to bomb up the Pentagon and the World Trade Center. Now, if y'all don't know about the World Trade Center, the World Trade Center was very important, not just in New York, but to the United States, because there was a lot of trading taking place. And that's where a lot of the profit was made, right at the World Trade Center, especially for Wall Street. So once that was bombed, that just kind of hindered the economy in New York City, and it pretty much messed up the United States. It set United States back because of that attack and the incident and other incident that took place right along with the attack. So let me see. Okay. All right, so let me get through this real quick. Okay, let's see what else we can find on here. All right, so there's another one named Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. And then it talks about the list of other Al-Qaeda members. Okay, so let's look at the motives. All right. So Osama bin Laden's declaration of a holy war against the United States in the 1998 fatwa signed by bin Laden and others calling for killing of Americans are seen by investigators as evidence of his motivation. In bin Laden November 2002 letter to America, he explicitly stated that Al-Qaeda's motives for their attack included U.S. support of Israel, support for the attacks against Muslims in Somalia, support for the Philistines? Philippines against Muslims in the Morocco conflict, support for Israeli aggression against Muslims in Lebanon, support of Russian atrocities against Muslims in Chechnya, pro-American governments in the Middle East who acts as your agent being against Muslim interests, support of Indian oppression against Muslims in Kashmir, the presence of U.S. troops in Saudi Arabia, the sanction against Iraq. All right, and it says, After the attacks, Bin Laden and Al-Jarrari released additional videotapes and audio recordings, some of which repeat those reasons for the attacks. Two particularly important publications were Bin Laden's 2002 letter to America and a 2004 videotape by Bin Laden. So basically, the reason was because, again, United States showed support for Israel, right? Also, the United States troops being present in Saudi Arabia, and their thing of the fact that they feel like the United States will support an attack against the Muslims in other countries as well. So that was his reason. So a lot of it has to do with religion. If you really look at it, religious beliefs. All right, so let's see. See what else can we find on here. Okay, so I read about that. Now let's look at the aftermath. Okay. It says immediate response at 8:32 a.m. FAA officials were notified Flight 11 had been hijacked and they in turn notified the North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, scrambled to F-15s from Otis Air National Guard Base in Massachusetts, and they were airborne by 8:53 a.m. because of slow and confused communication from FAA officials. NORAD had 9 minutes notice that Flight 11 had been hijacked and no notice about any of the other flights before they crashed. After both of the Twin Towers had already been hit, more fighters were scrambled from Lackney Air Force Base in Virginia at 9:30 a.m. At 10:28 a.m., Vice President Dick Cheney issued orders to shoot down any commercial aircrafts that could be positively identified as being hijacked. These instructions were not relayed in time for the fighters to take action. Some fighters took to air without live ammunition, knowing that to prevent the hijackers from striking their intended targets. The pilots might have to intercept and crash their fighters into the hijacked planes, possibly ejecting at the last moment. All right, so that's just one part of it I'm reading. So it's a lot of information, as you can see. So let's look at the health effects. Okay. All right, so the health issues. And right here, I'm reading this first paragraph. It says hundreds of thousands of tons of toxic debris containing more than 2,500 contaminants, including known carcinogens, were spread across lower Manhattan due to the collapse of the Twin Towers. Exposure to the toxin in the debris is alleged to have contributed to fatal or debilitating illnesses among people who were at ground zero. The Bush administration ordered the Environmental Protection Agency to issue reassurance statements regarding air quality in the aftermath of the attack, citing national security, but the EPA did not determine that air quality had returned to pre-September 11 levels until June of 2002. All right, and so then let's go ahead and look at the economics. The attacks had a significant economic impact on the United States and world market. The stock exchange did not open on September 11 and remained closed until September 17. Reopening, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 684 points or 7.1% to 892 8,921, a record-setting one-day point decline. By the end of the week, the DJIA had fallen 1,369.7 points, 14.3%. At the time, its largest one-week point drop in history in 2001 dollars. U.S. stock lost $1.4 trillion in valuation for the week. Damn. Wow. Okay. Let's see what else. Let's look at the cultural influence. Now, the impact of 9/11 extends beyond geopolitics into society and culture in general. Immediate response to 9/11, including greater focus on home life and time spent with family, higher church attendance, and increased expression of patriotism, such as the flying flags. The radio industry responded by removing certain songs from playlists, and the attacks have subsequently been used as background narrative or thematic elements in film, television, music, and literature. Already running television shows as well as programs developed after 9/11 have reflected post 9/11 cultural concerns. 9/11 conspiracy theories have become social phenomenon despite lack of support from expert scientists, engineers, and historians. 9/11 has also had a major impact on the religious faith of many individuals, for it strengthened to find consolidation to cope with the loss of loved ones and overcome their grief. Others started to question their faith or lost it entirely because they could not reconcile it with their view of religion. All right, so there's more information about this. It's a lot of information on here that I can't really go into, so you can look up the references if you like right here at the bottom of the page. See, we also got some information about the post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay. So we got information about post-traumatic stress disorder among World Trade Center responders 11 and 13 years after the disaster of September 11, 2001. This was written in 2000 and this was written in 2016, I believe. All right, so okay, so the introduction. The introduction said responders to the World Trade Center disaster of September 11, 2001, particularly the men and women who were at the site on September 11, were exposed to emotionally horrifying events, environmental toxin from multiple gases, and fine airborne particulated matter from the collapse of the towers. The responders who participated in the rescue recovery. Recovery and cleanup operation included experienced workers with extensive training, such as police and firefighters, and non-traditional responders with no disaster training, such as construction worker, electrician, and transportation and utilities worker. In the aftermath of the attacks, 2 programs were established to monitor responders' health and treat WTC-related condition. One for police and non-traditional responders. Health program, and one for New York City firefighters. In addition, the New York City Department of Health established the WTC Health Registry to track the health and well-being of individuals directly exposed to the collapse of the towers or its immediate aftermath. All right, so this particular article right here focus more on the aftermath of the 9/11 and how it affect people psychologically, emotionally, and physically. So it more so psychologically. So yeah, it deals with the traumatic post-traumatic stress disorder. So that's that article. And then here's another quick article right here. Okay. This article is called War and Enemy Status After 9/11 Attacks on the Laws of War. All right. So I'm going to read the introduction right here. Let me kind of just pull that up a little bit. All right. So it says in September 11th, the United States suffered shocking terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center in New York and the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. Most agreed that the attacks were penetrated by Osama bin Laden and several of his al-Qaeda followers, that these same non-state actors had been behind previous attack on the USS Cole and U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania. On October the 7th, 2001, the United States used massive military force and self-defense against such ongoing processes of armed attack by bin Laden and members of al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. In that time, the United States also used massive military forces against members of the armed force of the Taliban regime in Afghanistan. This upgrade in ongoing belligerency between the Taliban and the Northern Alliance and triggered application of the laws of war with respect to U.S. military responses in the Afghan theater of war. All right. So if you want to look up that information about that article, there go the information right here. You can find it on digitalcommons.law.yale.edu. So it's called War and Enemy Status After 9/11 Attacks on the Law of War by Jordan J. Posick. Okay. All right, and there's going to be some books I wanted to read. However, I don't have the time. So this book right here is called The Looming Tower, Al-Qaeda and the Road to 9/11, Lawrence Wright. Okay. So that's the table of content. Okay, let's see what year. Yeah, that's the table of content. Trying to see if I can zoom that up. Okay, and it was written in 2006. All right, so that's the top. That's the name of this book. It's called The Looming Tower. If you want to look up more information that goes into about those towers that was being destroyed in New York and also in Washington, Arlington, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. area. Yeah, so here it is. Okay. Then I got another source of information that I would also like to share with you guys that I don't really have the time to go into. This one right here is called the Imperial Hubris. The Imperial Hubris, Why the West is Losing the War on Terror. Obviously, this person wrote it anonymously, so the author have not put their name out there for, I guess, for a protecting reason. I don't know, but it was written in 2004. Okay, let me pull that up. And that's the table of contents, as you can see. All right, there we go. All right, so yeah, that's the name of this book right here, Imperial Hubris or Hubris, Why the West is Losing the War on Terror, and it's written by somebody that's anonymous. Okay. All right. So, anyways, that's all for today's topic about the 9/11. And I really want to say this. If we can research information about conspiracy theories, right? And I know that that was the website that you guys were on. Well, you guys Google those information online, or you was buying book from individuals who was selling you some conspiracy madness. You can go and look it up for yourself. All you had to do was type it in and be able to go back and check and verify sources. That's one of the reasons why I put up sources so you guys can read for yourself. So you guys can go back and look up the information instead of just jumping on the conspiracy bandwagon, right? Because everything is not conspiracy theory. There is a thing called war and casualty, okay? There's a thing called war and casualty. Let's look up war. See, war been going on for so many years. Ever since. Ever since humanity been on this planet. Okay? Say causation. And you can look up the list of wars that the United States done had in this country. You can look up all the information for yourself. If y'all don't understand that wars always happen, always took place. Wars are nothing new, okay? Wars are nothing new. So stop sitting here acting like there was never a war happening in this country or anywhere in the world. Because it always have. And it always will be. As long as we hear as humans, whether it be domestic war, international war, Cold War, Civil War, whatever type of war is going to happen. There's going to be peace and there will be war. And that's one thing that we have to learn. See, that's why I say that a lot of the stuff that we had, it's not guaranteed. Life is not guaranteed to us. You live while you're here. Do what you can because you never know what's going to happen. Never know. But anyways, that's all for this topic. All right. And I hope that you all have a wonderful day. I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon. And please be safe. And to those who had lost their lives during 9/11, may they rest in peace. And may the family of those individuals find peace within themselves and continuously to heal. All right. Especially for those in the New York region, New York City. With that being said, we will reconnect next time. All right. Deuces. Have a good one.